So you've lost all your receipts, or you just didn't keep any through the year. You're now trying to do your tax return and you realize it's become a bit of a nightmare. Let me explain how you may still be able to claim legitimate tax deductions when you do your tax return. Hello everyone, my name is Rooshock and today's video is all about receipts. So it's about those pesky receipts that you either haven't kept or you've lost them all, or maybe you got them burgled from you. Yes, they could have been stolen from you and they'll tell you how you might be able to claim them still. So stick around towards the end of the video when I talk about that. Now before I go into any of these things, the best method of claiming things is to keep a receipt. If you keep a receipt, you don't have any of these issues. So that's my first thing that I'm gonna say. Keep your receipt so you don't even have to worry about these. But there are some ways that you may be able to get around it if you have lost those receipts or don't have them. So let's first look at what actually is needed to claim a tax deduction on your tax return. So the ATO pretty much state that you need to have spent the money and not been reimbursed for it. It needs to be directly related to earning your income, and you need to have a record to prove it, usually a receipt. So that is the key one that we're going to be talking about today, that record to claim it. You need to normally have a receipt. So let's talk about what happens if you don't have them. So the main situation where you can get away with not having receipts is if your total claims are under $300. And that is combined. That's across all your deductions. If they're under $300, you don't need written evidence for them. So say you're claiming at label D5, you've got other work-related expenses of $270. That's it. Nothing else at any of the other labels. You won't need those receipts. So if you've done that, then you're fine. So with this though, you still need to meet those other two requirements. So you still need to have spent it and not been reimbursed for it, and it needs to be directly related to earning your income. So just because you haven't got receipts and you're under that $300, can't mean you can just make something up. But obviously you're under that $300 mark, you don't need written evidence, and the ATO are going to be much less strict on this. They're likely going to not do audits of people under this, but they still could. So keep that in mind if you do fall into this bracket. Where people go wrong with this, they think it's $300 for every item. So $300 for tools, $300 for donations, phone. It doesn't work like that. It's $300 combined. So you need to be under that combined across all your work-related deductions. The other area we can get away with no receipts is for small expenses. So these have to be $10 or under, and the total has to be $200 or less. So these are things where you couldn't get a receipt, or you may have lost the receipt. They're really small. And even to claim these, you still want to have some other record. So whether that's a bank statement that shows, oh yeah, I spent $7 there and $8 there. You know, it might show it was $7 at Kmart, or it was $8 at this small supplier that didn't supply a receipt. That's the kind of records you still need to have for this, and it needs to be under $200 combined. But that definitely could apply to some people. They may have little bits and pieces that they haven't got receipts for through the year. Each thing is less than $10, and they've got some other kind of record. Now, like I said, this record could be a bank statement. It might be something in a work diary that you've written down and go, yeah, I spent $8 on that day at this spot. So some kind of evidence is still needed, but it might not be the actual receipt. The other items that maybe you don't need a receipt for are donations, for small donations of $2 or more, but they're less than $10 in total. So it's not much of a claim. It's up to $10 there. So that's something you might not need a receipt. Or it's something like motor vehicle, where you won't actually need the receipts if you're using the cents per kilometre method. So I've done a more detailed video on motor vehicle expenses. But instead of needing receipts, you will need other written evidence or some kind of evidence that shows how you've come up with this kilometre method. But therefore you won't need to keep fuel receipts or repair receipts or anything like that for your car. So this is something people do often forget, that I do get to the end of the year with clients and talk to them and say, oh, have you used your car at all for work? Oh yeah, but I kept no records. And I normally dig in further and go, okay, what usage do you have? Have we got anything that we could use to support that? Oh yeah, I had a training day. I had to use my own car. You can see that the training day was out of town. I've traveled 200 Ks each way. Okay, we've suddenly got some kind of evidence of that, and therefore it's likely going to be claimable even though you haven't kept that fuel receipt. So motor vehicle is the one area where you may not need to keep all those receipts through the year, depending on which method you use. Now, I did say, what happens if your house gets broken into and someone comes in and they steal your tax receipts? What can you do? Well, the ATO do allow you to potentially still claim in this situation. You're likely going to want to speak to the ATO directly about the specific situations you've got. You may be able to come up with some of the records. Like I said, bank statements are always going to help. So where you're paying for things through your card, you've got some kind of evidence, even if you lose the receipt. Obviously, there'll probably be a police report. There'll be a range of other stuff. I highly doubt they're coming in just to steal your receipts. Or maybe your house was burnt down and things like that. The ATO are going to look at something like, have you taken precautions to make sure these are safely stored? So if you've just left them in your car and they've all faded, unlikely. If they're at home, they're in a folder and the whole house burnt down or everything in that room got taken, you're much more likely to fall under this, and speak to the ATO about how you can recreate your records. I want to hear from you. How do you keep your receipts? Are they stored electronically? Are they in a folder at home? Or are they all on the dash of your car? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're there, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and I appreciate you watching my videos.